Only the Church of God really understands in an expansive way that God calls us to individual doctrines in the Bible, because that's how you worship Him. Our coworker income in January was almost exactly dead on. If you rounded it off, it would be 50% over last January. Not 30%, 50%, and we think we're basically just warming up. That's a lot. The church began to fundraise in a much bigger way and brought in $2.5 million over the last 2.5 years, added to the better part of $11+ million. Yes, I'm being pretty blunt here, pretty open. That many $1 million that we didn't have 31 months ago, and I'm talking about above tithes and offerings. That's why we can do the multi-million-dollar efforts we're talking about and build a building cash. Many more millions, even than the millions before, came into the church. They ultimately led to buildings and television. If there's one thing Christianity in the world is not guilty of, could never be accused of, it's Christianity. If anybody charges the Christians of this world with Christianity, they're innocent of the charge. They don't do anything that Christ said to do, but they will build more buildings. And we have some more buildings to be built. Then imagine the assets coming from the remnant, and then imagine their tithes and offerings. Imagine all of the people who will be reached, who were co-workers and donors to those groups who now see there's a better one to give to, and then they give their common. Brethren, we're near the end. Time to give everything you have. We all knew it was coming. We talked about it. Now it involves sell it. If it's not all liquid, you've got to sell all that you have and distribute unto the poor. You'll have treasure in heaven. But when people will not do this, it's because they trust in riches. Labor not to be rich. Make yourself poor. What is your eternal life worth? Then you're left with either way. You have to do it. Now it is my judgment that it is a command. Why have you conceived this thing in your heart? You've not lied unto men, but unto God. The sin was a lie. And Ananias, hearing these things, fell down, gave up the ghost, and great fear came on them that heard these things. How incredible that the only place in the entire New Testament where people directly lost their lives because they disobeyed with God, husband and wife dropped dead in services, is because they did not obey common.
Husband and wife dropped dead in services is because they did not obey common.
Does the Christ who executed them in church mean what he says? He does. Again, of course they did. Becomes so obvious what God would record when he showed the very first snapshot of the church. They sold their possessions and goods, not just the disciples, but anyone. The rich can't lose in this world, and essentially the poor can't win. Even the Pope has figured that out, and I'm going to show you that Bill Gates and Warren Buffett and various other billionaires who are beginning to try to address this problem have also figured it out. Barack Obama's figured it out, and it is evil. We went to a bank the other day because we wanted to buy a particular home, because everything is always about the money. To forsake, to leave, to let go, to send away, remit, or yield up, to send or send forth. To forsake, it even means leave, let be, let go, send away, remit, or yield up. You can't make it anything other than it's gone. And if it's not, then eternal life is. There's just no other way to look at it.